Yeah, I think this is a very tragic situation, really, that we are such a prosperous nation, that we are so endowed with so much, and that we stand by when anybody, frankly, but when so many have so little, and especially when we're such a wasteful society in so many ways. So I wish I had a good answer to you, and I think all I can come back to is what I think your group is trying to do, Michael and Jim, which is to force that dialogue, which is, you know, if we had a family of someone who was destitute, you would not leave them out on the street. And we've got to sort of enhance our concept of a society to say, okay, of course we can't have a 300+ million family, but we certainly can approximate more of that sensation that we're all in this together in a critical way, and that is a shame on us that other people live like that. And I think until we undermine that it isn't just like, oh, I can just go to my house in Northwest DC and ignore what's happening, even in this very city, where it's a shame on me that I live in a city, that I'm willing to tolerate living in a city where we have the poverty rates that we do. I think until we make that part of what we solve for as a society, we're not going to get there. And I think that the efforts to change the dialogue are part of it. I think, sadly, what has happened in our political system is that we have enabled sort of esoteric anti-government agenda. Ultimately, governments are the only refuge for the destitute, for the people who have no other representation, the children who have no parents who can take care of them, et cetera. We've turned the anti-government agenda ultimately into anti-poor people agenda. And I think that's a very dangerous thing for our society. But I think the solution has to be in unwinding that, to recognize that the government is us at the end of the day. We are, and to the extent that we're not providing for our society as a whole, shame on us.
I'd only add, as a former speechwriter, we've had over the last few decades the triumph of middle classism in American politics. Political elites just talk about the middle class, and that's true across the spectrum. I mean, you go to the Republican convention, I was on the floor in a lot there, they talk about entrepreneurs, and, you know, almost exclusively, as though most Americans are not entrepreneurs. But you go to the Democratic convention, it's middle class all the time. And, you know, it leaves a set of issues really unaddressed in our politics. And so it is a huge gap. You just don't hear much political discourse.
You know, as an
issue.
economist, there's a very easy explanation, right? Which is, even think about at the peak of unemployment during this crisis, we were sort of just north of 10% unemployment. And you'd say, how could we accept that? Like, how is that possible that we're going to, you know, some countries have much higher unemployment rates, but we had not in a very, very long time experienced that kind of unemployment. And the simple sort of rational behavioral answer is, well, 90% of the labor force does have jobs. So if you're a politician for votes, who are you going to worry about? And same thing with the foreclosure story, same thing with the poverty story, same thing with the others. And so I think it's only when we link the plight of those people to what's happening to the bulk of people that we have a chance of making it the agenda that it needs to be.